Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, home of the BitSquad, the largest and greatest crypto community in all the interwebs. My name is TJ, and I'll be your host for today's episode of Around the Blockchain. Every weekday, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, maybe 5:02, we come to you live from the BitBoy Crypto studios to bring you the trending crypto topics of the day, as well as answer some of your most asked questions. Got a really good show lined up for you guys today with some really good guests. We're going to be talking about China debt markets dumping with some major real estate moves going on over there that are causing some serious turmoil in the Chinese markets, as well as black swan events, how that affects crypto, how that affects general markets, and if we could see that coming in the near future, as well as Coinbase bowing down to the SEC. It looks like they've been partners in some capacity, and also some veiled we're calling it some theater over here regarding between SEC and Coinbase, acting as if they're going against each other when in a lot of ways they're working what seems like hand in hand. So we're going to get into that discussion a little bit. But got some really good guests, as always, on the show. CryptoWendyO, eating bagels by the bunch. She's always got lots of really good things to say, very positive, great voice in this space. We got Spencer Taring joining us again here today. Got the voice of that the chat always loves, and another great accent, RONNY from Cripto Avances, the Spanish YouTube channel, always puts this episode, dubs it over into Spanish. So if you're a Spanish speaker, make sure to check him out. And Ben Armstrong, fresh off making some mixtape today after Akon came by. He's working on his new music career. So gonna be bringing the bars, I'm sure. But yeah, we're gonna be talking some really good stuff, getting into it here, guys. I'll start with you, Ben. We talked a little bit about the Chinese markets this morning. Actually, before we get into that, we'll do a quick market watch. As everybody knows, it was a little hairy this morning. Prices dumped all the way below 42. We've gotten a little bit of a bounce back, but pretty much overall across the board red today. Lots of dumps, lots of pain. I mean, got a couple things hanging in there in the green, but biggest losers: Thorchain, Phantom, Tezos, Luna, Harmony. So pretty much across the board, double digit losses. So beyond that, though, if you guys are new to the show, you'll see a score box in the bottom right-hand corner for each guest. So if you like what they're saying, drop a +1 in the chat. I'll know to give them a point. Whoever has the most points at the end of the show will have 30 seconds to leave the audience with a parting message. So, Ben, I wanted to come to you with this first one. Like I mentioned, we talked a little bit this morning about these Chinese markets, but we know there's been a lot of FUD coming out of China against Bitcoin for a considerable amount of time, specifically ramping up in the last few months. So now we're seeing some of this turmoil with their economy over there. Is there any concern of yours, or should we be worried that the economic turmoil in China will affect the crypto markets?
Not really, because, I mean, this is not unusual what we're seeing over there. We talked about on the stream this morning. I mean, China takes over a lot of companies. That's what ultimately will happen. The government will take over Evergrande, and every 2 to 3 years we see a major company take over. I think that's really what this is China's positioning itself to do that. And so, I mean, look, by next week, nobody will be talking about this story. This is something that was built for today to kind of disguise the price movement on the way down. And I don't think it's going to have a lasting impact. I think really more so what we're seeing in the United States over the next few months is going to be much more crucial to where Bitcoin is going.
Yeah, there you go. And then also, if you guys are watching at home in the chat, if you have any questions for the guests that you'd like to see us ask that relate to any of these topics, please drop them in the chat. We'll ask the guests and hopefully get some new insights from you guys. So, Ronnie or Cripto Avances, I wanted to come to you with this one. We've seen, and Ben mentioned Evergrande or Evergrande, they largest commercial or largest real estate fund in China. With 1.2 million homes waiting for to be constructed. They've got all these debts that it's looking like they're potentially going to default on to keep them together. Is there any chance in your mind we could see something like we did with the Lehman Brothers back in 2008 here in the U.S.?
Yes, I think this is absolutely possible because China is the second largest economy in the world, and Evergrande is one of the largest company in China. They have now they borrowed $300 billion from 171 banks and 121 financial firms. So as in the Lehman Brothers crash, there could be starting a chain reaction. There are suppliers waiting for their money. There are construction companies, international companies, that waiting for their payment. So whether or not they will be bailed out, but I think there is a risk that such a big company from such a strong economy could start with this chain reaction and could affect the world market. You see today the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, everything is down. The Nasdaq is down. Gold is rising. So yeah, I think there might be an effect.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. All markets are down. Gold is usually that safe haven asset people tend to go into. So it's interesting to see some of those shifts going on. Wendy, I wanted to come to you with this one. I know we started to see kind of a mini run on the bank or a start of a run on the bank in China over there. Do you think we could, if we did see a big run on the bank, we could potentially see people start like a run on stable coins, so to speak, like he's talking about people getting into gold and getting out of crypto or traditional markets and trying to pile all their money into stable coins?
I think it really kind of depends what happens, because when we're talking about stable coins are not really decentralized, and they kind of are backed by cash to an extent. So that comes to a very tricky answer. So if people are not trusting fiat, why would they go to stable coins when they can turn to something like Bitcoin, or they can turn to another currency, cryptocurrency that makes sense for them? So I like stable coins. I like using them to go ahead and stake and earn that passive income. But at the same time, if I want to escape fiat, I don't necessarily know if I want to dump my money into a stable coin, because if something happens with a particular economy that stable coin is coming out of, then I have a higher risk in losing my money, as opposed to putting it into something like Bitcoin and then, of course, precious metals, diamonds, whatever else.
Yeah, great point. And on that note, let me follow up with this. Do you think we could see some other assets? Is this Peter Schiff's time? Do you think you're going to see people moving into gold and maybe or Bitcoin or some of these kind of hedge assets? Last time we saw a big market correction when the pandemic hit in March, everything got hit across the board, and all the gold people and a lot of people that kind of the anti-Bitcoin people said, look, it wasn't a hedge. Bitcoin dropped just like everything else. Do you think we could, if we were to see more economic turmoil in the near future, we could see Bitcoin would act as that hedge, or do you think it would get hit just like everything else?
Bitcoin will always experience volatility, at least for the time being. But then the question comes to, when we're talking about economic instability, what happens if people actually have to start fleeing? What happens if people actually have to pick up from a specific place and go? I have a 5-year-old. My main priority is getting my kid and taking her with me safely. If I want to do that, I'm going to have to pick between my precious metals, or I'm going to have to pick between my kid. Of course, I'm going to take my kid. So me personally, I like the idea of being able to have access to my money and not having anybody know potentially where it is, etc. So I personally like the idea of Bitcoin, but at the same time, I'm not going to dump everything I have into Bitcoin because of the volatility and other reasons why. But that's just kind of where my mindset is with all of this stuff that's happening.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Portability, a major factor that becomes more relevant every day with the more turmoil we see out there. So, Spencer, a lot of people could be saying all this turmoil in China is just FUD. It's just noise. It doesn't necessarily have to do with what's going on in the markets today. So I wanted to ask you this. Do you think this is kind of the major catalyst that's causing this big dump that we're experiencing? Or do you think it's something else?
It's definitely not FUD. I mean, the Chinese government and the CCP, they're not going to let a company like this collapse. They're able to manipulate the market as much as they want. They've got complete and utter control over the entire banking system and currency in their country, but they don't have the ability to replace the big problem, which is a lot of Chinese people, we're talking hundreds of thousands of them, have bought homes, paid up front for these properties through Evergrande, and Evergrande are not able to deliver them. So they're basically, people are starting to riot and protest. And I've seen videos of it from friends of mine in China, and there's a couple of great YouTube channels actually, one called China Uncensored, I think it is, showing these people starting to protest about their homes and about the situation they're in. And this is obviously very unusual. And China will obviously suppress the news. You won't see this news very much in Western media, but it's big news. And it's just a matter of time for me. How long is it going to be before the people in China realize that they've given up so much freedom for convenience that it's kind of gone too far, and suddenly they're in a bit of problems. And once that happens, the Chinese government won't be able to contain the anger of their population. They're only able to contain everything there right now because they're making it better for everyone every single year. They're bringing more and more people out of poverty, so people don't argue with giving up some of their freedom. And if that company does go down, yes, of course, it's going to have massive implications across all the markets, including crypto. We've seen when we've had big stock pullbacks. We saw when we had the coronavirus come out, that affected both the stock markets and crypto. It's not like people pull out of stock markets and go into crypto. I think that's kind of more of like a long-term trend change for me, as opposed to when the markets all crash, everything crashes. So if it does go down, I don't think it will, because I think the Chinese government are just going to make it go away. Then obviously I think we're going to see big problems, but I don't think that's going to happen yet. But it's definitely not going to help with their ongoing issue they've got with discontent with their populace.
Hop in, Wendy. What you got?
So I actually just popped on Twitter because I like to kind of see what's going on. And I'm kind of picking back off the question that you asked me. There's this article that just came out from the Los Angeles Times. It says FBI seizes fortune during a raid of safe deposit boxes. Why the box owner calls it a bank heist in broad daylight. So that just kind of furthers my point that we hear stuff like this happening all the time. People go in and it's pretty easily able to take others' wealth, especially all you need is a name, address, etc. And you can go in and find where everybody's assets are. With cryptocurrency, you can't necessarily do that. So I had to bring that up.
Yeah, great point. And like you were saying, Spencer, like if that company was to fail, it could have major ramifications, but you don't see that happening because the Chinese government, CCP, whoever it is, has complete control over that organization, entity, the currency. So you see them propping that up as long as they need to, basically. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Well, that actually leads pretty well to the next topic, black swan events. And, we've got Nassim Taleb, the guy who actually coined the phrase of a black swan event, which basically, just they gave me the definition here, black swan event is an unpredictable event that is beyond what is normally expected of a situation, has potential for severe consequences. And that's coined by Nassim Taleb. He also very vocally anti-Bitcoin, says anybody who calls Bitcoin a hedge against the market crash is a certified fraud. So I know a lot of us here think it's a hedge against inflation, but Ben, I wanted to kind of come to you. I know you're very openly talking about you think a black swan event is coming here very soon. So what does that look like? Would Bitcoin be protected from that, or would it get hammered across the board just like everything else, in your opinion?
What evidence do we have to suggest that Bitcoin doesn't get hammered when the rest of the markets fall? What evidence do we have? Zero. Yep. Literally none. In fact, when we had the pandemic crash, we saw it exacerbated. We saw it dropping harder than everything else at that time. It went from, I think that morning it started out around $8,000, and it went all the way down to, I think $3,900 in one day, in just a few hours. I think that's March 15th of 2020. So, or maybe it was March 12th or 14th, whatever it was, the day of the pandemic crash. So there's this idea that Bitcoin's this hedge against inflation. Like long term, yeah, sure, on some level. We saw Bitcoin bounce back more than we saw other things bounce back much more quickly, but that's probably because it went down lower than most things went. So look, here is the hard truth that people do not want to hear. There's literally nothing that's a hedge against inflation. There's literally nothing that's a hedge against a black swan event. By nature, a black swan event takes everything with it. And so, when you're looking for things in the short term to kind of hedge your gains or your losses, Bitcoin will work. But when we switch over to deflation, our economy goes down into a recession, which will be happening very soon. Your Bitcoin is certainly not safe. Actually, and this sounds like blasphemy, but people are going to want to have their money in dollars, actually.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Almost like gold, anytime you see markets get hit across the board, you see very fast people flood into precious metals and dollars, usually a lot more dollars than gold because it's just a lot more of it out there, a lot more liquid, a lot easier to get your hands on. Wendy, what do you got?
I have a question for you, Ben. I don't remember what specific time period it was, but there was some sort of economic turmoil that occurred. People rushed to the bank to pull their money out, to pull their dollars out, and they weren't able to do so.
Yeah. Well, when?
So I don't remember when it was. I
talking
want to
about,
say it
like,
was
the Great Depression
in America
in the 20s.
Yeah, I want to
many
say
times in many times
Yeah, I
in
wanna
many
say-
countries would run on the bank.
but not in America.
I want to say
I mean,
no, during the
there may
Great
have been.
Depression.
Yeah, there
Well,
was
yeah,
definitely
we
a
didn't
I wanna
have
say-
ATM, so you know.
I know,
little bit
but like
different.
you couldn't go in and get your cash. That was like a big issue.
Right,
That's
but
why
how
we
long did
now
that-
have FDI.
Yeah, how long did that last? I mean, for 10 years, nobody could get their money out. You know,
No,
some
but
point
I'm just
people were
saying.
able to get their money back. Hey, look, we don't trust the banks. I mean, don't mishear what I'm saying here. I don't trust a bank as far as I can
never.
throw it. I don't suggest everybody having all their money sitting in one bank account somewhere. But you know, just because we go into a recession does not mean that we are going to have a bank run, because it's not going to happen overnight. The thing that was really characteristic of that pandemic crash was it all happened in one day. Everybody's like, whoa, what happened here? You know, but when it comes to a recession and going over deflation, it's going to be a slower burn. It's going to happen still pretty quickly in the beginning, but it's not like one day they're going to be like, oh yeah, by the way, deflation, everybody get your money out of the bank. So, and plus, look, back in the 20s, we didn't have the infrastructure that we have now. Back in the 1920s, we didn't have the infrastructure for giving money out and ATMs and stuff like that. I'm not saying that it won't all collapse. I mean, BJ popped up on the screen for us to see internally here. You know, they got rid of fractional reserve banking, where they had to have a certain amount on hand. If we all went to the bank today and asked to withdraw our money today, it wouldn't be there. But don't mishear. Yeah, don't mishear what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's safer in a bank. I'm saying it's safer in cash.
Well, and that's a good point you made. Like, the way things work is much different now than it was back then. I mean, everything's fake now. It's all paper money. It's all digital money. So like you were referring to, fractional reserve banking, a lot of people are familiar with it. Basically says a bank only had to hold 10% of what they were loaning back out. Well, during the pandemic, when it all hit, when they were making those emergency changes, they dropped that down to 0%. So a bank literally can loan out money without having anything to reserve, anything to back it up. And so, like you said, if we went to all withdraw it, the banks are 100% broke. This is the problem we're running into. It's just much easier for them to perpetuate that game now that it's all digital and on paper. So that's kind of how I feel, that we're with the explosion of USDC and stable coins. It just gets that much easier for them to have a digital dollar, for it to be manipulated, kind of like Spencer was referring to with the way they do things over in China. But let's keep this. Go ahead, hop right in.
Yeah. My opinion is that this I think it's also a generational consideration here. I don't think kids growing up today have this association with cash anymore. I think they're much more. They're actually just comfortable with the stable coins, or with the using your Apple Wallet or Apple Tap Pay or whatever. People just don't have. Some kids are not even using cash ever. So the fact they're having a run on the bank, I don't know right now, but maybe in 10 years or 15 years, that it's not going to be the same anymore, because it's all anyway. So I think they're going to be able to manage those situations. And one thing Ben mentioned, he talked about Black event and inflation. I do think Bitcoin is against inflation, be protected against the black. I don't think those two things can be put together in the same sentence, because they're two very different events. Got it.
That was a little choppy there. You were referring to inflation and the hedge. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, because in inflation, I think Bitcoin is protected against inflation, against a black swan event. Which
I mean, I tell you, I tend to agree with that, actually. I mean, I was getting we were getting a little sloppy with what we're actually targeting here. I mean, hedging against inflation and against a black swan event is certainly a different thing. I mean, inflation, we just saw Bitcoin was a hedge versus inflation while inflation is happening. The only issue is that inflation is going to be going away soon.
Well, yeah, and on that note, speaking of inflation, speaking of price manipulation, currency wars, and currency manipulation, Ronnie or Cripto Avances, do you think this is something China can mitigate with their printing and with the way they manipulate their currency? Will they be able to print their way out of this and prevent this collapse of their economy, or the pressure that it's feeling right now, in your opinion?
I want to catch up a little bit with what Ben said about inflation and Black Swan event. If you read the the white paper of Satoshi Nakamoto, you will never ever find a phrase about this, that Bitcoin was made as a hedge against inflation or black swan events. Never. You just see Bitcoin, a payment system, a digital payment system, and that's what Bitcoin is. Okay, we ourselves, we assume now that we should use it as a store of value, as a hedge against whatever. But this was never the idea of Satoshi Nakamoto, you know. So now to say, oh no, it's worth less, okay, because it's not a hedge. It was never be meant a hedge, you know. So it's a payment system, and I think it works perfectly. If I want to send $1 million now in this moment from here to Japan, I just press a button and it's done. So Bitcoin is 100% doing what it meant to be. Okay, and China, yeah, this is very hard to say because I'm not an economist. You know, I'm
Sure.
crypto YouTuber, but I guess that they are smart people. You see, there was such a poor country. Without any significance, and now they're the second largest economy of the world. So I'm sure they will find their way out. Even they have so much power in their own country, they do whatever they want. Okay, so I'm sure, however, they will find their way out.
Perfect. Yeah. And so we're going to switch gears here a little bit and talk about Coinbase, from people trying to manipulate currency to those that are trying to give them the information to do so. We've got Coinbase and the SEC going back and forth the last week or so. The latest announcement today, Coinbase is no longer going to be launching their crypto lend product, which has been the focus of the SEC's target. Basically, I think it was like a 4 to 5% yield on coins, which doesn't seem that outrageous to most of us here in crypto, but the SEC seemed like that was dangerously high compared to your 0.004% or something you get from your bank account. Great tweet that WendyO put out not that long ago that I really enjoyed. But Ben Armstrong announced the SEC had told Coinbase it would sue the exchange if it launched the product, so now they've backed away from it. So, Wendy, do you expect to see Coinbase fighting with the SEC the way we saw XRP? I mean, XRP took a strong stand and just went head to head with them, and from what it looks like right now, they're going to win. But do you expect to see something similar from Coinbase or something else?
Not at all. I don't think that, I can't say what I want to say on air, but I don't think Ben Armstrong is going to, I don't think he's going to stick it to the man. And the reason why he's not is because look at all the different government agencies that Coinbase is partnered with. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, you know, to kind of play the good cop, bad thing and to be friends and be an ally. I don't want to say friends, I want to say ally, because they're two completely different terms. But we just found out that they partnered with ICE for surveillance, which is like,
exactly,
it's honestly kind of ridiculous. And this is why I actually respect the XRP Ripple folks so much for doing this. Again, it wasn't my favorite cryptocurrency for a long time, but the fact that they were able to kind of stick up for the underdogs and really for the whole entire crypto industry, that says a lot to me. I'm an action kind of gal. I look for actions instead of words. I like to see people doing instead of just talking out the side of their neck. That doesn't work that way. But I think that they're going to end up bowing down to the SEC and to the different government bodies, the regulated cartels. And that's just pretty much what we're going to see. And it's not really a good thing because it kind of sucks for crypto as a whole.
Yeah, it does. And really for the United States, I mean, Coinbase being one of the premier companies within crypto and blockchain, also being based here in the United States. So, Spencer, do you think rules and regulation like this being put on some of the biggest players within crypto and blockchain could stifle the innovation coming out of the United States in this department?
Yes, most definitely. With regards to Coinbase, obviously it's now a public company, so it has a lot of different people. It has the public to answer to. It's no longer privately owned, and they can make decisions like attacking or defending themselves against the SEC. So I think once you're in a situation where you're a public company, you have to answer to your shareholders, and the way you do business starts to change significantly, even if it's not necessarily in the best interest of what you originally set out to be. I'm sure when Ben Armstrong originally out with what he was doing with Coinbase, he had this grand vision of Bitcoin purist and all this kind of, I'm sure he was all of that, but as soon as it becomes a public company, you've got to start changing the direction and how you manage that company. And I've always said, I believe that actually USA is going to be the last country in the world to formally adopt Bitcoin as, well, legal tender, or whatever adoption it is. It's going to be the last place in the world that does it, because you're the number one. When I say you, I mean USA, the number one country in the world right now. You're the biggest economy. You have been for a long time. Pretty much everything is valued in USD. All the petrodollars, all the stock markets, everything is pegged against other currencies around the world. All pegged against the USD. So you've got complete control over pretty much every economy. And that's why you're able to spend so much on your army as well, to back up your USD even more. So why on earth would you give all that up and to a decentralized, distributed store of value and currency? You just wouldn't. You're going to fight tooth and nail to the end. But I think inevitably, Bitcoin crypto is going to win. I don't know how long it's going to be, but when it does, America's going to regret big time not adopting it and really utilizing it and getting all the value that it could get over the next 10, 20 years with the innovation and great minds that are being put to work in this industry.
Yeah, and so you see them fighting it tooth and nail pretty much as long as possible until there's no admitting it anymore. Like, you have to accept it.
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting. Okay. Well, of Cripto Avances, I wanted to hear from you regarding the same thing. I know you have a lot of opinions on kind of how things interact. I know you said earlier you're not an economist, but obviously you've got a lot of unique perspectives on how people use different currencies and how it impacts things. So like Spencer was saying, he sees them fighting this tooth and nail the whole way through. Do you think they're just delaying the inevitable here? Like they're going to fight it, but it's just going to win out no matter what? Or do you think they have a chance to actually stop? Like, could the United States stop Bitcoin, stop crypto, stop blockchain?
Yeah, look, there are people, and the Bitcoin maximalists, they say, oh no, there's nothing that can affect Bitcoin ever. But you must understand that, let's say the biggest economies in the world, let's say United States, the European Union and Russia, they put everything together. They will forbid mining. They will take over all the mining equipment. They will have more than 51% of the mining equipment, and they can easily take down Bitcoin with this. It's very hard, yeah, and it's very maybe it's a very big project, but it can be happen. First of all, second of all, the USA for not allowing this development of blockchain, of cryptocurrency in the United States. So I think it's impossible to ban crypto. They can ban themselves out of crypto, but can never ban crypto. So there are so many things happen now. New companies, innovation that go to other places. For example, in Europe, there are so many crypto-friendly countries, and all the projects go there. They pay taxes, and blockchain is something that will change the world. And you as a country say, okay, no, we will make problems for this. There are so many companies that you cannot even reach the internet page from the United States. Okay, so I think that's not the right way. They should just find a middle way. I understand absolutely. They want to protect the dollar, as Spencer said, and it's absolutely understandable, because with the dollar they have a lot of power in the whole world. I understand this part, but I think they should be a little smarter with this, because all the innovation, they will go to other places. Even companies from the United States, they go out, they stopped paying tax in the United States, they pay it otherwhere. So I don't think it's the right way.
Awesome. Real quick, Ben, we got some questions in the chat wondering, I can't really see here, what is going on with that picture behind you? What exactly is that?
Steven is not here.
Yeah. Okay.
Our chalkboard artist is not here. So there's a dog, and it has a Twizzler hanging from its mouth, and it's got no balls.
Okay. All right. Well, let's hear your take on the Coinbase versus SEC. Do you see do you agree with some of these comments? Do you think the United States is going to fight crypto tooth and nail, or do you think they're just trying to get themselves positioned to profit from it before they really start pumping it up?
No, they're not. They're not fighting it. They're trying to make use of it the way they want to make use of it. That's why the digital dollar is going to be coming. It's going to be coming pretty soon. I think USDC is going to be, if not the digital dollar, it's going to be the infrastructure for it, which was an idea I first talked about when I met you. I think I talked about this years ago about how I thought USDC was going to become the digital dollar. Is that correct, TJ?
That is correct. I did tell you that a long time ago.
No, I said it.
Oh.
I said I told you that.
I was reading the chat. I'm over here
tell.
trying to respond to Crypto Brenda, but yeah, I did say that.
Yeah. No, well, I said that. It was my idea from the start. But the point
No, I
here
said that.
Yeah. Wendy's the guy.
Wendy's the guy.
Wendy's the guy.
There it is. Look, here's the fact, though. The United States is not fighting against crypto. This is all smoke and mirrors. This political theater. Here's what the government cares about: taxing crypto and control and power of crypto. That's what they want. They know that they can't stop it at this point. They would have stopped it a long time ago if they could have. That's already out the door. All they're trying to do now is they're trying to get everything stuck in the minutia of tax laws and regulation. They're trying to slow it down so we can play catch up. That's really what it boils down to. So, no, the United States is not anti-crypto. They're just wanting to do it on their terms. And, you're going to see certain countries. Look, who are all the countries that are leading the charge of crypto? They're insignificant countries that play zero role in the world economy. As soon as, I don't know, France or Germany or the United States or Brazil, I mean, not the United States, we are the United States, or Brazil or South Africa, like a country that has like a pretty good amount of pull. When they start accepting crypto and they start, taking advantage of a lot of the stuff it offers, the United States will pay more attention. You already seen China's direction. China's direction is let's just FUD Bitcoin. Let's control the mining. Let's hide that. But you know what? Let's actually pave the way for our digital yuan. And that's what they're doing. And so as long as that's their plan, then the United States doesn't feel the pressure to have to move forward with innovation.
Yeah, good point. And then also in the chat, they're asking if there's any good alternatives for Coinbase, like if people don't want to support Coinbase or they want to use something to get yield on their crypto. Any suggestions you want to throw out there?
Kraken.
Yeah, well, I would say Spencer says Kraken. I don't like Jesse Powell. I'm going to say Celsius. I mean, that's a good place to get returns. We do know that Texas, New Jersey, and Alabama are, have some security actions versus Celsius. All this is going to shake down to basically a bunch of nothing. I said this before. The stablecoin regulation is coming to prevent the competition with the bond market. And so stablecoin returns, get those while you can. They will not be here forever. And look, this has already been evidenced as BlockFi decreased their returns earlier this year. Why did they do that when crypto was hopping? Because they were made to. Yeah. Why? It's the competition versus the bond market these people do not want. So if you want to stake Bitcoin, you want to stake Ethereum, you want to stake some other coins, Celsius is the one way to do it. We've got a code, I think HODL50. You guys can get more information at bitboycrypto.com/deals. We heavily support we like BlockFi okay, but we really, really, really love Celsius. So we suggest that would be the place to go check it out.
Yeah, great points. And like you were saying about those yields, I mean, it is interesting to see the pressure getting put on these companies to lower those yields. And,
absolutely.
Like you said, I mean, they're trying to balance all the markets here so that, they don't mind you getting a little yield. That just can't be too much. That makes all this other stuff seem extremely unattractive and irrelevant, basically. So they're trying to play all the positions. When you own a little bit of everything, you don't want any market to break. So you're just trying to play that Ponzi. So that's what a lot of the big money players and the governments of the world seem like they're doing. They're trying to keep their.
I want to jump.
Yeah, hop in.
I want to jump in there, TJ. Yeah, so I don't totally agree with the stance on that. These high yields are not sustainable. You just can't make that much money on your money without doing risky business. If you look at the business models of BlockFi and Celsius and Nexo is another similar one. I think Nexo is my favorite one. I mean, I use these platforms, but I'm never going to put more than 10% of my wealth onto any or my crypto onto them because they're basically like unsecured loans. If those platforms go down, you're going to lose your money. And those high interest rates they're not sustainable. They're only sustainable during a massive growth period of crypto, which we might be in for 10 to 15 years. That might be the period, because that we're during the adoption phase, right? Like the internet in 2000, maybe in the 90s we are with the crypto, right? So those yields are sustainable during that big growth period, but not in the long term. Not when you've got bank interest rates are under whatever they're 0.1% or something crazy like this. You just can't do it without having a high risk. And I think that they're getting pressure from regulators, because they don't want to have a scenario where people lose their money.
Yeah. No, and I think you made a good point there. They are temporary, and they're going to be tempering as the volatility decreases over time. I think the point Ben was trying to make, you were saying like they're only sustainable with a big run-up. Well, we were experiencing one of the biggest run-ups crypto's ever had this year, and that's when BlockFi decided to drop. I think it was like from 6% to 4% or something, like something negligible. However, from all intents and purposes, if you're a marketing person trying to grow your user base, now's your time to do it, and you would make that adjustment later. So it seemed like that came from a lot of regulatory places. Then we immediately saw the SEC going after Celsius and taking shots at Coinbase Lend as well. So it seems like there seems to be a coordinated effort against APY, specifically on stable coins. Now, there'll still be yields out there on a lot of other projects, a lot of other things, but I think both of you guys are saying they will diminish over time, so get them while you can. Because and that's a great point that you said too. Anything on any of these staking platforms, Nexo is another one we hear referenced a lot that a lot of people like, Celsius, BlockFi, they are unsecured loans. So if any of those companies were to go belly up, there's a contract that says you can get some stuff back, but it's very you're not getting it back if those companies go belly up, which we don't think they were. We have a lot of trust in Celsius. We know Alex Mashinsky well. He's been around a long time. That's part of why we use Celsius, is because we trust them more than a lot of the other staking and yield platforms out there. But yeah, TJ Ripples. I'm just looking at my name now, so that's pretty good. Yeah, everybody knows I love XRP. So, all right, well, that's all we really have time for today, guys. Really appreciate you guys all hanging out. We still have 10,000 people in here, so if you enjoyed any of the content today, if you like these guests, if you could just do us a huge favor, smash that like button. It helps more people learn about crypto and get this message out there. As always, the links to all of the guest channels are in the description below, so if you have some time after this, go check their channels out. Lots more great content there. Looks like Spencer is our winner for today. So congratulations, Spencer. You got 30 seconds to leave the audience with a parting message you feel like they need to hear.
Great. Thanks very much for having me on ATB today, guys. Really enjoyed it. I'm up at 6 a.m. in the morning here in Indonesia, so it was worth the while to stay up. Yeah,
what a
really
guy.
Dedicated to it. If you guys are interested in play-to-earn crypto games, I'm developing one myself at the moment. It's going to launch soon. Go to my channel, check it out. It's called Dope Wars. It's going to be very, very cool. And yeah, that's all I got for you. So thanks again, and I'll see you guys very soon.
That's awesome, Spencer. Sounds dope. If you guys will be back 5 p.m. tomorrow, just like always. DZ will be here hosting. We'll have some more great topics and some more great guests. That's all we have time for today. BitSquad out.